What's happening, guys? Welcome to the Dynasty Warzone, the People's Dynasty YouTube channel. And on this edition, we're going to do 10 good rookie minutes with Memphis. This is our YouTube exclusive show with me breaking down little bits and pieces of this rookie class. Tonight, I'm going to be jumping into the rookie quarterback position. I'm going to cover a few guys, give you some thoughts, get you in and out in 10 minutes or less. Please make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel. Normally, you don't watch the podcast or what have you. And be sure to leave a thumbs up and a comment as to what you'd like to see next. And again, make sure you subscribe because we're going to be doing some fun giveaways throughout the off season as a way to grow the channel. So again, subscribe, leave us a comment about what rookie content you'd like to see as we get deeper into this rookie season. And I'm going to jump right into this class. I want to keep it to about 10 minutes for you. And I will be honest, I'm not super crazy about this class. I heard one NFL scout who wanted to remain anonymous who said this could be the worst rookie QB class since 2013. That was the EJ Manuel class if you go that far back. That was not a good class. And there's not even like the one diamond in the rough, and he really wasn't rough, but Kyler Murray 3 years ago. It was him. Daniel Jones has had moments. Dwayne Haskins has been a bust. I don't think this class has a Kyler Murray. As a matter of fact, I know it doesn't have a Kyler Murray. I'm not even sure it has a Daniel Jones, but we'll jump deeper into that in just a second. But I will say one thing about this class. They have a little bit of something extra going for this class that other classes haven't had, is that if these guys tend to go later in the draft, the odds of them landing on good teams is an advantage that a lot of rookies don't normally have. Teams like Atlanta, Denver, Minnesota, New Orleans, and Pittsburgh are all teams that I consider to be some combination of well-ran, well-coached, or loaded with talent. I really like Minnesota and Atlanta for a couple of reasons. Those reasons being that they would be a great landing spot for one of the rougher around the edges QB prospects. I'm thinking of guys like Malik Willis. I'm thinking about guys like Carson Strong. Atlanta and Minnesota aren't going to be readily available to move their existing quarterbacks. Matt Ryan has a dead cap number of $40.5 million, and Kirk Cousins has a dead cap number of $45 million. So 40.5 for Matt Ryan, 45 million for Kirk Cousins. But these are the kind of spots. These two spots have that Alex Smith 1 year going to hand off to Patrick Mahomes or Jimmy GQ with Trey Lance. It has that dynamic to them. So for those reasons, I like those spots. I love Denver. You know, they got all the weapons. They're going to be getting a new head coach. Patton, the general manager, seems to have a good feel for what he's doing with that organization. It feels like they just got to plug in the right quarterback. Minnesota, again, you got Justin Jefferson, you got Dalvin Cook, Irv Smith, hopefully back. A lot of good things going there. Mentioned Pittsburgh, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool. Maybe they re-sign Juju, maybe they don't. They've got a rookie running back and tight end combo and Freiermuth and Najee Harris. A lot of good stuff there. But back to these younger guys going potentially to Atlanta or to Minnesota. It's solid professional QBs. Gives them that 1 year for those toolsy guys. And a lot of guys in this class have some tools. Carson Strong, great arm. Malik Willis, pretty good, but raw prospect. I would love for these two guys to wind up in a spot like that. And typically young QBs, I'll use Daniel Jones or Sam Darnold as an example. Normally they're thrust into a position where they have to come in and be the savior right away. The entire weight of the franchise this year was dumped on the back of Zach Wilson. Was he ready for that coming out of BYU? Maybe, maybe not. He didn't look great. And, and that was kind of across the board at times for this entire rookie class. So landing in a situation to where you can work behind a pro for a year, again, like a Kirk Cousins, like a Matt Ryan, would be a good blessing. I don't want to see guys go to poorly coached teams. And this would include new head coaches and OCs. Some guys can handle that as a rookie, and some guys cannot. But this class certainly falls more into that group that shouldn't or couldn't be starting as a day one prospect. Um, I don't think a lot of these guys are good enough just to come right in and overcome the dysfunction of a team like Carolina, like Detroit, the Giants, the Washington football team, teams that I feel are poorly ran in situations where they would be drafted and have to come right in and be the face of and save a franchise. So those are some of the spots, but I'm going to get into my top 5 QBs and just some notes on each. My QB5 in this class is Sam Howell, coming out of North Carolina, and my notes on him are literally nothing special. Literally nothing special about Sam Howell. At 6'1", 220, a good but not elite arm. He's accurate and more than athletic than we think, but his decision making has been questioned at times, particularly in the red zone. And when I read those kind of write-ups, that does not fly in the NFL. He seems to fit into a class of guys that for me include Tua, Jared Goff, Baker Mayfield. I think Derek Carr could be his ceiling. I see a guy that will rarely crack your weekly starting lineups in 2022 and beyond, even in Superflex. I mean, he's the kind of guy who's probably going to get overdrafted, and you're going to look back in 3 years and go, man, I didn't really need to invest the 107 in Sam Howell. I think people will. I don't think they should. But Sam Howell is my QB5. My QB4 in this class is Malik Willis. Now, I've seen him go as high as the 102 in some Superflex mock drafts that I've seen on Twitter. He seems to have the most ceiling, but he seems to have the most bust potential as well. He's not a big guy, 6'1", 215, but he's big enough and athletic enough and has the arm to do big things in the NFL. He's the number one candidate in the NFL for a red shirt for me. He's my QB4 today, but he certainly has the potential to jump to the top of this class, provided where he lands. I love a spot like Atlanta or Minnesota for him. Again, I referenced earlier in the video, I'd love to see a guy sit behind Cousins or Matt Ryan. Man, Malik Willis coming out of Liberty really fit this bill for me. I'd love to see him sit behind a pro for a year, get that year of tutelage, that mentorship, and let him be ready to take over in 2023. He's going to be a very attractive option for teams with later picks in Superflex for me. He could slip a bit if he lands in an Atlanta or a Minnesota because he's not going to provide immediate points to your fellow GMs in your Superflex leagues. So for me, he's my 4, knowing what I know today, but this top 5 is going to jumble very quickly. My 3 in this class is Carson Strong. Strong feels like a classic old school QB. He's big, he's 6'4", has the big arm. The more I look at him, the more I think Atlanta, it's the perfect fit. His profile reads like Matt Ryan's current resume, but with a better arm. He lacks the mobility of the current NFL. I don't need my quarterbacks to be Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson all the time, but I think you need to be more athletic to at least be able to extend plays. I don't know that he has that. Strong as a Steeler or a Bronco could intrigue me in Superflex leagues, but I'd prefer a year behind, again, a Kirk Cousins or a Matt Ryan as he figures it out coming out of Nevada. He feels like a Superflex round 2 guy today, but another guy that his value is going to be determined by where he goes in the NFL draft, not only from a draft capital standpoint, if he's a round 1 overall pick, or if he goes in the second round. It's going to determine where he goes in your Superflex leagues. A lot to be determined, but I like the arm. I like the old school throwback. He kind of feels like Davis Mills with a better arm to me. That may be a horrible comparison for some, but I'm definitely intrigued by the size. I'm intrigued by the arm, and I'm super intrigued by where he lands. My QB2 in the class is Mr. Matt Carroll. Carroll is the B student of this class for me. Doesn't seem to do anything at an elite level, but also doesn't seem to be extremely deficient in any area. He improved as a decision maker in 2021. He improved his accuracy, and he's mobile enough for today's NFL. I just mentioned this as a detriment with Carson Strong. He has that mobility. He has that athleticism to be able to extend plays, and that's why I've got him as number 2 in my rankings. I think he'll force his way up draft boards as fast as he moves up NFL draft boards, meaning the more draft capital he gets in the NFL, the more intrigued Superflex GMs will be encouraged by pushing the button on him in Superflex drafts. But for today, and he could go to the top of my class. He could fall back a spot or two, but today he's my QB2. My QB1 in the class is Mr. Kenny Pickett. I recently read a blurb on Pickett over at the Draft Network, and I got rookie Baker Mayfield vibes. And I quote, I want to quote this article, and it is, "There's a lot to like about Pickett's blend of aggressive gunslinger's mentality and playing within the rules of play. He generally picks good spots to take chances, and for the most part, goes to the correct place with the football within his progression. With that said, he can be overconfident in both his arm talent and pocket mobility, and he isn't immune to some risky decisions with the football." And that blurb is courtesy of Joe Marino of the Draft Network. Now, Joe's comp in this article write-up that he did was Joe Burrow, but when I read that and I read that again, I get Baker Mayfield vibes. Let's say he splits the difference and he becomes a usable QB2 in Superflex, and one that has QB1 weeks. I mean, he's a guy that I wouldn't mind as like my QB3 on a Superflex Dynasty roster, and then see what happens. But for today, he's my QB1 in this class. There you go, 10-ish, heavy on the ish minutes into my first foray into this rookie class. I am almost a full month ahead of where I normally start doing my rookie content. And rookie season's here at the DWZ Fantasy Football Network. This is my first YouTube. Be sure to subscribe, leave a thumbs up, comment on what you'd like to see next. Maybe you'd like to see running backs. Maybe you'd like to see wide receivers, tight ends. It's up to you. You can vote, comments down below, and check out the podcast found on Apple iTunes. Here on YouTube, we're doing the rookie rundown. We're doing Dynasty War Games, the Dynasty War Zone, the Fantasy Football Smackdown. We're going to be doing our DFS show, the Daily Destroyer, all the way through the playoffs with Tyler and Lou. Tons of great Dynasty content, tons of great fantasy content. Just because the season's almost over, it actually means we've just begun. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you soon.